I ended up into like a full-on pornographic film.
Yeah.
I was like,
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I was like,
Nice.
okay, this is what we're doing right now.
It was called Baccano, no, not there. And
Baccano.
You now, but that's your rite of passage. You
I
understand.
couldn't control the playback or anything. It was like once it got started, I was like, "Don't touch it, Josh. Just watch.
Just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just watch it."
Don't turn off the dim mode on.
The only way I could get us to stop is if I quit my browser.
So, what is everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast. You didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome.
Yeah, you are.
Whether it's white suits, black suits, or suits of blood, no one is leaving unscathed on the flying pussyfoot. Wow. Today, we talk about one of our hosts' favorite anime shows and the intercutting stories it entails. Join us for this episode of Baccano. Before we get too far into it, my name is Corey.
I am Tom.
And I'm Josh. And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears, like the Extra in the Minute, where we'll break down a topic. And it's fun. It's fun stuff. All sorts of different things. The Minute is fun because we break down something in a minute. It's intense and fun.
It's very stressful to record, to be honest.
The timing has to be precise.
Yes, precise. So do check that out. Not only do you get a whole bunch of bonuses, but you also help us to upgrade our content and be the best that we can be. So check that out, nerdon.tv/Patreon. And check out our Discord. Continue the conversation. If you ever listen to an episode and you're like, oh, I want to say this thing, head on over to the Discord. There is, like, for instance, today we're talking about an anime. There is an anime channel in there, and we can continue the conversation over there. You also, if you're a member of the Nerd On Nation, you get secret channels on that super public Discord. So check that out. And a shout out to Odyssey, Apogee, and
Embody Audio.
Yeah, Embody Audio. They're amazing. All those companies we're really happy to be working with and having them in our arsenal. So yeah, that's my housekeeping. What about you, Tom?
Well, it's the holiday season. It's the holiday season.
Talk about seizing the season, Tom. What do we got?
Well, I'm here giving thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Well, and I have the question. Do I ask or tell my extended family if they have the Performance Package 4.0 from the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming? I will. I definitely will. It's way better than talking
100%.
about anything other than politics. Not to mention, it includes
He's not wrong.
their lawnmower 4.0 trimmer to tame my bush and score brownie points with the in-laws, if I had any. So for all those who do, please do. Give yourself Manscaped or the man in your life who needs it and join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with 20% off free shipping with the code NERDON by going to manscaped.com.
Nice.
You did it. You got through it real well, actually.
I think I tried. A little ad lib, a little cool stuff. It's a great stocking stuffer. I know a lot of people are thinking about the holidays, and 20% off goes a long way, baby.
That it does.
Yes, it
goes a long way for some other people's long way. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Wow.
All right. That's where we're at now.
check that out. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with code NERDON.
Sometimes you need a rail tracer for your flying pussyfoot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But Tom, we're talking about we're talking about Baccano today. Finally.
Yeah.
I've been hinting at this episode for.
But can we just say this was on our schedule 3 years ago, and just for one reason or the other, it kept getting moved, and then finally we were like, just take it off. And
legit,
now we're here.
Something changed.
So as Josh says, pulling the curtain back.
Yeah, pulling the veil back.
Yeah, pulling the veil back. We write the show notes on a G drive, and we have here's the brief synopsis, or here's the notes, and then here are the production notes, and it's 2 tabs. And I typically make sure I delete them all and all that stuff. I kept them on. I kept Baccano on for such a long time.
Yeah,
and then. It was really sad when I was like, I guess we're going to delete it because we didn't know when we were going to come back to this. So if there's a moral to it, everyone listening, we will do the episode.
Because I suggested this. This is a Corey thing, and I did. I went and licked my wounds for a little bit. I was like, it's fine. It's fine. We just won't cover that one. We have plenty of beautiful other shows that we cover, such things as Silent Voice and all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad it's back. I'm really excited for this.
Well, I think also our Animu fans, our Weeboo listeners, like a little anime in their life.
And this is one of those shows that it is kind of an under the radar one. If you don't know about it, you kind of don't know about it. But the fandom that does is very persistent in telling people, hey, you should watch this.
It's a summer anime. And for those who don't know, like legit, there are the long form anime that you know and watch, and you see all the characters on the table and stuff like that. But then every summer and also during the fall season, there are these like seasonal shows that just come out, and they'll just do like 5 shows, and that's like the summer block of anime. And this came out in one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's kind of like that like old school Hollywood blockbuster system where like you'd find like a gem like Baccano, and it just sometimes doesn't ever hit like the huge mainstream. So it's very interesting that this is Corey's favorite anime show.
Yeah, well, it's one of, right?
Yeah.
Kenshin is probably my one, but yeah.
I also want to say that the last time that we did it, or that we were going to talk about it, it was still on Funimation.
It was a little harder to find now. There have been some rights.
Oh my God, I can't wait to
issues.
talk about that. I can't wait to talk about
Funimation
that.
lost the rights to it. And so it's in this weird ether now. And I'm sad because I didn't buy it. And now the DVDs are what, like $60, $70, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have that kind of cheddar. But,
we are talking about the show.
I was just about to say.
It is a finished show.
It is.
Whether you could find it all or not.
And I believe we talked about, because what's easily accessible, the show itself we're basing our rating off of is off the 13. There is some extracurricular episodes, which we will talk about, but at least my rating is off the original 13 run.
Okay. So Corey's talking about a rating, because at the end of this episode, if you're brand new, we will be rating it at 1 out of 5. And so that brings us to our first segment of the show, which is
Guess That Grum. There's so many things in this. There's the gangsters and immortals and a train. Oh, a big old train. Everybody's on the train. And who's gonna live? Who's gonna die? Will they die?
Send the check, Netflix.
You're welcome to your ears.
So if you're brand spanking new to the show, you don't know what that's all about, you're welcome, as Corey said. But this is a part of the show where we're going to go around the table and then guess who's going to have the lowest score from 1 out of 5. No matter how high the number is, the lowest score will be the grunt for the week. Since I always explain and I always say too fast. Josh, go ahead.
Well, I know it's not Corey.
Really?
But we don't. It's 1 out of 5. No matter how high the score is.
The lowest.
I mean, this could be a grump with a 4.8.
9. We've had grumps with 4.9s before.
Yeah.
I want to throw that out there also.
Thanks, Corey.
And you do know I have a qualm about this.
I do know you have a qualm about this.
I don't.
I'm gonna.
That's interesting.
Oh dang! Dun dun dun! I'm gonna pick Tom.
Smart decision, because
Smart
you can't
decision.
pick Corey. I'm gonna pick Josh because it's a smart decision.
So now I actually am the only one who gets to pick today because
pretty much.
Whoops, you didn't pick. You picked Josh.
Was I gonna? Should I pick you?
No.
Should I? Pick
That's
you?
dumb as hell. This is a tough one for me because it could go either way. And Josh has come in this last year, I'd say year and a half, 2 years, has become anime boy with things like.
I will say, just a quick aside. I was telling Josh like the struggle of finding anime shows, and I was like,
we're gonna get into this in the next segment because I do want to talk about it. Yeah, there's a whole process.
But it's so fun. Just everything's relative.
Yeah,
and so like Josh becoming anime boy, and I'm like, I must be anime god.
But no, he is though, because like we started with My Hero, I'm assuming, and we've gone through a plethora of other different shows.
Cowboy,
and I would say this is a more complicated of the ones. So before becoming anime boy, I definitely would have picked you. But at this point, I'm like, maybe it hits different. Maybe I picked Tom because he knows a lot of anime. Maybe he's like, this is fucking garbage storytelling. Who knows? So my honest pick is Tom.
Okay. But so the quick aside was that I was like, and there's a lot of anime that I don't even bother with.
Actually, I'm going to talk about this because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So the last episode, number 16, I could not for the life of me get to play.
The OVA, the extra.
I could not get it to play on this website that I was watching it on. And it would not play. And I was asking Tom, I was like, hey, do you have another source? Hey, where do I watch this? And he sent me the same website. And I was like, God bless it. My ad blocker was stopping it from playing. And it was almost unwatchable because there were so many pop-ups, ads. I was like,
you are a Jedi now, and you hear the crying of 1,000 voices.
Yeah.
Like
I was
legit,
like,
oh,
couldn't
the sexy ads.
I couldn't even.
Tom's just like, it's just another Tuesday for me.
I ended up into like a full-on pornographic film.
Yeah.
I was like,
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I was like,
Nice.
okay, this is what we're doing right now.
It was called Baccano, no, not there. And
Baccano.
you now, yeah, but that's your rite of passage. You
I
understand.
couldn't control the playback or anything. It was like once it got started, I was like, "Don't touch it, Josh. Just watch.
Just leave it alone.
Just leave
Don't
it alone.
yeah.
Just watch it."
Don't turn off the dim mode on.
The only way I could get us to stop is if I quit my browser.
Uh-huh.
So
are you sitting at home going, man, sounds like Josh had a terrible experience, Corey. You should have definitely voted for him. Well, guess what? Put your money where your mouth is with those votes and join the Nerd On Nation.
4 quarters.
Yeah, you could participate in polls where you get to guess that grump. And if you get it right, you're the guesser, gator, grass-fed, Gatorade, Genoa, guesser, grumper, guesser. Ding. And you get a shout out on the show if you get it right. And the Nerd On Nation has spoken, you guys. And guess who they didn't vote for?
Corey.
Well, they did. A few did. But the grump for this episode is a tie between Josh and Tom. So I'm going to say you each get a half point there.
hell yeah.
So who's gonna go first?
It's going to be me first
And then-
because I have no votes.
And then Josh and then me.
Then Josh and then you.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
So there you go. There you have it. That's the rankings. Nerd On Nation has spoken. If you want to participate, join the Nerd On Nation by heading to nerdon.tv/Patreon.
Throw us
Did I do
4
that right?
quarters, baby.
You're right.
Patreon.
I'm growing.
Throw us 4 quarters.
But now we go into the complete spoiler of the of that segment and into our initial reaction and
first impressions.
first impressions across the pond. I was trying to think. I'll go first because it's my fault we're here.
Okay.
Summer of 2007. I'm living in Novato at the time. And my friend Nate is over. I don't actually know if it was 2007, but it might have been right after that, 2008, something like that. Watched pretty on. He was like, "You got to watch this show, Baccano." And I was like, "Okay." I don't remember how we got it. I'm not going to say it was illegal or not, but he got it for me on a little stick, and we watched through the whole thing in one night, and it blew my mind. It was like it was exactly like the kind of stuff I like. Like I always pitch it to people. I know people say, "Oh, it's like Pulp Fiction," but I'm like, it's more than that.
No.
Because I get what they say with Pulp Fiction, but I would say this was like if Guy Ritchie and had a baby with I'll throw in Tarantino in there as well, but it was written by like Scorsese or something. It's so many different genres that I really love all put into one.
I'd say it's like Guy Ritchie doing an episode of Arrested Development.
Yeah, all right, I dig that.
Oh shit.
I dig that. Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that did come into
But
play.
with the Tarantino bit of the
with guest
violent-
directors,
yeah.
like just like, yep.
So it just kind of hit all these marks for me, and I was also like, at the time, I had watched my fair share of anime. I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near where Tom's at, an aficionado, but
I'm not.
I know. But like Nate is, and he's watched like the entirety of certain shows that I haven't even dipped my toe into. Like he's a huge Bleach fan and One Piece and all that kind of stuff. And I like to find the more niche ones, but he's kind of watched a wider variety. Like I've loved Gurren Lagann, and I loved at this time I had watched all of Kenshin multiple times and Yu Yu Hakusho. And so this just kind of fit this niche genre that I hadn't really seen in my viewing. And I love a 1930s, 1940s setting for it. And I love mafia movies. It hit a lot of notes for me. And I just remember watching it and being like, I haven't seen anything like that before. And that's really inspired something
You
in
probably
me.
won't.
Yeah.
Like in anime, it's very interesting that like, yeah, this is not a really a time frame, especially as the way that they tell the story.
Yeah. And I won't go into any more spoilers of beyond the 1930s setting, but there's other elements of this show that I just kept going, it's this kind of show? The fuck is this? And so, yeah, it kept me surprised.
Josh, you or me?
I'll go.
Mhm.
I do have to include my original experience of when it was on
Right,
the
because
docket.
this is your first impression.
Yeah, this is. It was originally on the docket in 2017. It was one of the first episodes that we were going to do because we were going to start branching out into anime more.
First anime episodes we're
yeah,
going to do. Yeah.
it was one of the first, and
Mistake on my part.
I watched it one time, and then I was like, what the fuck? So I watched it again and I was still like, fuck this show. And I know that I have come to ask these guys, my journey on this show,
Yeah.
Nerd on the Podcast, has been quite large. And I have grown quite a bit. And coming to the table with qualms is very, very hard for me. So my first
It's a challenge for you.
it's a challenge for me because
Yeah.
I don't want to say negative things. I really don't. I want to focus on being positive about something. So back then I didn't have anything good to say.
Yeah. Well, and as a show, we do focus on that. Like, pulling back the curtain a little bit, a very important part of the show is that nothing is irredeemable. Everything has its merits, and we try to speak to all of those things.
Yeah. And at the time I didn't have anything. So I just had a sigh of relief when it just happened that we weren't going to talk about
Just
it at
happened.
that time. But things happen in life. You experience things, you ingest different media, you read different
You
things.
grow.
You grow as a human being.
Spine your brown.
And this
know
next
what I just
watching it
said.
through, this has been on the docket for a few months, and I watched it again, and it hit me completely differently. I do have qualms, but
Sure.
it's one of those things that I enjoyed it, and it made me interested in the lore, the world that Baccano takes place, even
Within.
interest in reading the light novels, that kind of thing, like the actual story.
You
of
kind of
it.
had a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Baka. Oh.
Yeah. So
And like going into this, I also am very aware that this might also be one of my things that everyone kind of has their thing that when they tell people about it, a lot of people go, yeah, I don't get it. And you go, all right, that's cool. It's just my thing. And that's fine. And it's happened a lot with this show. I've suggested it to a lot of my friends and they've come back and I go, what'd you think? And they go, I didn't like it, man. I go, all right, cool. And then I just text Nate. I'm like, another one down, man.
this would have been like we waited till now before it was brought up.
Yeah.
Like it was like for noobs, I would not
No,
at all.
that was my mistake.
At all recommend this show.
Because that would have been one of your first animes you watched,
Yeah, and
right?
I've been
The
like,
first time.
Cool. I'm out.
Tom?
So,
Y'all are weird. I feel like for me, if I suggest anything to anybody, it's that meme of what are you defending like this? And it's a long iPhone 50 with like a giant text thread. I'm like, you don't understand. And they're like, oh, I didn't like it. Like, they didn't understand. They're not smart enough. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I texted.
I
I go,
like how
another
you
one
put
down.
that judgment on them. Way to go, bro.
I mean, look, Josh, if you said like, Tom, try this out. I'm like, I hate this. I would totally be okay if you said, Tom's not smart enough.
There was a point I had
I don't think
suggested it
intelligence.
to so many people that had turned around and been like, I didn't get it. I didn't like it. It wasn't my thing. That Nate and I started thinking like, did we just exist in that room on whatever night that was? Was there just a weird thing that we both
All
experienced?
hopped up on Mountain
I mean,
Dew.
Do you know what I
and-
mean?
There is
Like,
definitely,
was there
like-
some shared, like, did we enter a different reality for
Look,
those few hours
I
and
mean,
then come back?
But then also, like, it was 2007, 8-ish maybe. So
Yeah.
you're younger. It's the camaraderie. There's a lot of things to look back on. Look, and also everyone listening, I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
I like some dumb shit. So like if I suggest something to
Can
somebody
confirm.
and they don't like it, then I'm like, you dumb as hell. It's just dumb people saying dumb shit half the time. So, but what for me, watching this, so non-spoiler, watching this show, I'm just like, this is such a fucking Corey show right here. This is some fucking crazy bullshit going on. I'm like, okay, but it's highly enjoyable. And I
Yeah.
would say that it's something that you could watch and enjoy a lot of aspects towards. And I think some of the greatest highlights of the show, I watched it in dub, and it was actually the acting in there. And I think if you
within the community, it's one of the strange kind of black sheep where most people say if you want to enjoy this to the fullest, like we don't engage in dub versus sub on the show, but they say if you want to engage to the fullest, the dub cast is the way to go because not only does it give weight to the setting of 1930s New York, but it helps with the characteristics that way.
yeah, when they say Martillo family, you're like, okay, I get it. I know I know how they're
Yeah.
saying it and what they're saying it. And it takes place in America.
And the casting was great.
Yeah. So, this is my third or fourth time watching the show. I definitely did my due diligence and watched it multiple times when it was first
I'm
on
on 12.
when it was on the docket.
You Miller.
But like,
Dominant.
just like Josh was saying, like, for someone who has watched a lot of anime, it's something that definitely it requires you to engage more than just watching it passively. You're not going to hold your hand and be like, this character is this character is that. Like, this is one of those things that you don't skip the opening because it has information that you're like,
Mhm.
oh, there's these characters. I may not see them soon, but they have all their character names in
Plus
it.
a bomb ass opening
Yeah,
that's
it's a really-
only
very
defeated for me by Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, it's such a catchy
Yeah.
opening thing. So it's very enjoyable at that extent. I would say there's definitely, I don't know, I guess some hills or obstacles to get through to
It's
watch
not a
the
show you can put on the background.
No.
It's a show that
Absolutely.
you're sitting down to watch and ingest every second of it.
And also that being said, like the high point of entry for some people is that you have to pay attention. You have to know what year things are happening and
Mhm.
also who's
The
affecting
3
who,
different timelines.
and who's talking about what, and then what character are they there during this part, are they there during that part, what's location setting, and it's all stuff that like if you blink or you miss it, like I watch anime during my lunch breaks and I'm with my coworkers and I'm like, hey, get off your phone, you pay attention, this is important.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you don't know when those moments are going to be when you watch a show for the first time, so it's just always better just like put your phone away, take your 27 minutes,
Enjoy the art.
put the phone away. Like stop looking at the IMDb, stop looking at the information, just watch and obtain the information. So watching the show, I definitely could recommend this to a lot of people, but for any of the neophytes, I wouldn't. I would say definitely something like definitely slower, because this is like actually a pretty sophisticated, smart show that like really does like you do have to like kind of almost draw out like, oh, this is what happens here, but it's like very satisfying. I
Yeah.
think to me that's the one thing I would say. It's like a very satisfying end. That like,
Everything comes together really nicely.
yeah, and it also doesn't end the way that you might think it does. And
Mhm.
I thought when watching, I've watched several shows. I watched like 5 shows, but yeah, it's enjoyable. But there's definitely more brain work you need to do, which deters people for some
Yeah.
fucking reason.
I do get the first, at least especially the first 2 episodes is very like how it's been explained to me, very season 1 of Game of Thrones, where it's like none of this matters in the sense
Here
that there's
are the characters.
story happening, but we're doing this so that you know who everyone is, and then after that you can go, okay, great. It's
Here
a lot
are
of
the
exposition
players.
in the first 2 episodes, is what I'm trying to say.
We'll talk about that more when we can actually spoil it. But
Okay.
with that, we're going to the next 2 segments of our show, which are going to be our brief synopsis and our production. And the brief synopsis given to you by.
I'm so glad that this is a brief synopsis, because this would be an interesting brief synopsis. So I'm just going to read the one off Google, and it's short. A fantasy caper involving alchemists, gangsters, and immortality is spread over several decades.
Done. Easy. Now the production. It's an anime. And if you've listened to this show, you know that I try my best to pronounce these names. And also, it's an ensemble anime. So there's
Hey,
a lot
yeah.
of characters. And I'm going to
Yeah.
not include some of them. And I'm not going to include some of all of their like works they've worked on, because we'd be here for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through the ones that I have, and you can all find them on IMDb. And I do include the Japanese actors and the American actors. That being said, let's just get on with it. So the studios working on this is Brain Base. They got us such things as Duel Masters King, To Your Eternity, and Dance with the Devil Fortuna. Aniplex, who has given us such things as Full Metal Alchemist, Blood Plus, Eureka 7. The showrunner, so the director is Takahiro Omori, who has given us such things as Hellgirl, Durarara, and Samurai Flamenco. Producer, Shuko Yokoyama from Little Monster, Book of Friends, and Durarara as well. Writer, Nobuo Tagaki, who's given us such things as Golden Kamui and Koi Kaze and Durarara. The cast for Dallas Genoward, the one that I have put in here is Michael C. Pizzuto, Isaac Dion, who's played by Masaya Onosaka, and J. Michael Tatum. Miria Harvant, who's portrayed by Sayaka Aoki and Caitlin Glass. Cesla Meyer is played by Akemi Kanda, who's worked on such things as Sailor Moon Crystal. Maxie Whitehead, who's worked on such things as Summer Wars and Fullmetal Alchemist. Jacuzzi Splot, who's portrayed by Daisuke Sakaguchi, who's worked on such things as Paprika. Joel McDonald, who's worked on such things as Escaflowne, My Hero Academia. Nick is portrayed by Kunihiro Kawamoto, who's worked on such things as Naruto. Charles Baker, who's been in such things as Breaking Bad, One Piece. Firo Procienzo is portrayed by Hiroyuki Yoshino, and Todd Haberkorn. Ennis is portrayed by Sine Kobayashi, who's been in such things as Often Lied. Brina Palencia, who's been in such things as Fruit Baskets, My Hero Academia. Lad Russo is portrayed by Keiji Fujiwara, who passed away recently, R.I.P. Who's been in such things as Fullmetal Alchemist. Brian Massey from Black Clover and Fairy Tail. And Nisei Holystone is portrayed by Yui Kobayashi, who's been in such thing as Steins Gate, and Colleen Clickenbeard from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Wolf Children. That's a few of the cast members. The release date for this show was July 26, 2007 to November 1st, 2007. So Corey might have watched it during the time it came out or the next year.
One of those two. Round then. Because then I moved to New York right after.
The episode is 16, including 3 OVAs are called specials. It's one season, and the runtime for each episode averages 24 minutes. There's no budget because anime is such a hard place to find the budget for. And the Rotten Tomatoes score, there is nothing from critics, and it's 91% from audience.
Yeah.
And that is all the production. Now we'll move on to the complete spoilers of everything.
Meat and potatoes.
If you have not watched the show,
pause it, go watch it.
And now we're talking about everything. So favorite part, yes.
Well, I wanted to, while we're getting into spoilery, just talk about, I mean, one of the reasons why we picked this show to do, not just because you were wanting to do it, but also we had just done Ensembles R Us, which is Ensemble Films R Us, which is, I mean, this is the epitome of ensemble. They even draw focus to it in episode 16, where the people that we start off with who are talking about the story, kind of very meta of like, where does it begin? Who are the characters? And he even says, hey,
episode 1,
there is no lead character. You keep trying to put a title, like you're trying to figure out who the lead character is. And then sometimes there just isn't.
Mhm.
This is all of these people are, and I just thought that was so interesting. I'll start with that this is the epitome of ensemble that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Where everybody gets a focus.
Mhm.
Everybody gets a moment to shine. Everybody I think, some exceptions, minor, you get an idea of who they are.
Yeah.
And what they're here for. And you're like, wow. In 16 episodes, you get to see so many characters show up. So
yeah,
I agree. And the music, I just want to touch on that before we start getting into favorite parts and stuff like that. The score for this is absolutely wonderful. I actually started these last few weeks while I've been watching it, I've been working on other things in between. Again, not a show I can watch while I'm doing other things because I need to pay attention to everything, but I would put the score on in the background while I was editing or doing socials and stuff like that. And it's much like, I know I said it's akin to Cowboy Bebop, but I really just love this kind of upbeat jazz orchestra type of music. Is just really fulfilling and fits this genre so well for being put in the 1930s. So I want to give a shout out to that as well because it's just really well composed.
And the overarching the era that it takes place is always, I've always been fascinated with the 1930s and Prohibition and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very interesting.
I mean, I think the cool thing with this show is that at the very beginning of the episode, it really draws focus to like this girl who's trying to figure out how to tell this story.
Right.
And then, you have this older character who's like, the story is the most important thing. We may not tell exactly how it's supposed to be said, but we're purveyors of information.
Yeah.
And so, it's very meta. It's talking to the audience in that way. But it kind of invites the audience members to kind of be like, yeah, I wonder how everything's going to connect. And so you're already in that mindset, in that space, because, you start out with the 2 thieves. And you're like, okay, where did this happen? Like, they're pretty much good, like, analogs to Jesse and James from Pokemon of like these like kind of dumbfounded thieves,
comedy relief.
Yeah, and it's like, how are they all going to connect to like this like massacre that happens on this train? And you're like, oh, are they going to like? And that's the thing that happens. Like, are they going to die? What's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
So you're tagged along with that. Then all of a sudden we move on to the next characters, and you're like, okay, well, what's going on with this? Like, okay, there's like some mafia people. What's going on with that? And then all of a sudden, oh, now we're with like this one really like kind of crazy psycho nephew guy.
Yeah.
And like, what's going to happen with this guy? So like, you're constantly just like given puzzle pieces. And part of the enjoyment of the show is that you're trying to piece together how, what's going to happen when these two meet? What's going to happen
kind
when
of
these
Knives
two meet?
Out-ish.
Knives Out-ish, but I feel like it's like a little, I don't know, kind of like Watchmen, the TV show, where you're like, I don't know how this is all going to play together. But and that's kind of the leap of faith you do with shows. And I think that there's something missing with modern television or storytelling now that you don't get that with other things, where it's like they're giving the audience so much more trust and faith that like they will piece it together. And by the end of it all, whether they like it or not, they will understand what the story is going to be. And I think that's something like more risky, more bold that we're not seeing with storytelling nowadays, where everything holds your hand and you're just like, oh, I get it, man. Like that character cares about their grandpa.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Well, to be specific, I'll start off. One of my favorite scenes is it's on top of the train, and it's between Lad Russo and Claire, aka the Rail Tracer.
Vino.
Yeah,
All the names.
yeah, um, it was just such a cool mental chess game because they both believe in their mentalities, what they believe so strongly, and they're just coming to bat at each other, and they're basically just like talking at each other, and they both believe that they're not I mean, funny to say immortal,
Mhm.
but they're I mean, anyway, they're just
No, I
they're
know what you
very
mean.
strongly opinionated.
they're
Yeah,
And so when you're
they're-
talking about
they're-
immortality, you're like, well,
Well, that's the
so-
fun play there, right? Is that there's the idea of it and then the actual real thing.
Yeah.
Like for me, one of my favorite parts watching the show, I remember the first time getting those little pieces, right? And then finally getting to the part where Fiero's about to get mugged and stabbed in the back.
and fingers.
And his fingers get cut off. And I was like, oh man. And then seeing it start to come off the blood and being like, what
yeah,
is happening?
I
What show is this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember that being the moment of like, I liked it before, but now I'm fucking here. I'm here for this.
That was actually the only moment that saved it for me.
Mm.
When I originally
Yeah,
watched it,
yeah.
I was like, I putting myself on the chopping block. I was like, why are we doing this? Why? And then that scene happened, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I get it.
There's a whole
There's
another
more.
layer to this.
I'm-
But that moment to me was just like, I'm here. I remember that being my hook point. Being
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm here.
I mean, for me, like, to me, I had the opposite effect because I was just like watching, like, what the fuck, what, and then all of a sudden, like, the fingers come off and they come back on. I'm like, what is this now? Like, just I don't know anything. And then I think episode 7, we get to the boat.
Yeah.
And I loved that sequence.
I was gonna say that episode has always stuck out to
and
me.
I love,
Misa.
yeah, the Misa, and then also just like, you know, they summon. And like the gothic evilness, and then like the immortals and the rules of the immortals.
But even the cool thing about it is like the demon or whatever they summon is still even like, oh man, I thought this was the time, and I might be wrong, but we'll still have to see. Like he's just chilling and being like, I was gonna give immortality because I thought y'all could handle it, but maybe I was wrong.
yeah, and you're like, is it God?
I'll stick around and see what's up. But like, and also in that scene, getting to be like, but that person is,
Well, and
oh
then,
shit.
But then also, so that episode isn't the first time we were on the boat. We saw some flashbacks of the boat that's like in the 14th century,
Yeah.
and like all of a sudden, someone just gets
1400s, yeah, or
gets-
1700s.
Yeah, someone just gets sucked into one hand, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's the last you see of it. And then all of a sudden, episode 7, they're like, oh, that's the shot. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what is happening? And then later on, you see who's the old man who has
Siza.
yeah.
Silzard.
Silzard. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Who that
I said
does-
Misa.
Yeah, Miza, chill dude.
Yeah.
He might as well be a chill old white guy.
yeah.
But he just like absorbs some people, and you're like, oh, there's something really going on. And then it gets a
Yeah.
little Highlandery, and it's like, oh, and like I think Sisla, the child, I think is like a really cool character because you're like, oh, he's a little devious. And then they open and introduce like, oh, do we start with the character of this? Do we start with the young capo? Do we do like the kid who can never avoid a terrible fate? And it's like you see the kid get shot by Lad Russo,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Shit. Yeah.
yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, this is a big spoiler, but the very end of the 13th episode, where Misa meets him, and he's like, he's gonna put his hand on my head, and he's gonna
Devour me. Yeah.
devour me, and then he just like, welcome, and then he's just like, I missed you, and I was like,
yeah.
all these like immortals, it's like this reunion that like everyone's kind of like foreboding, like this terribleness is happening, but then you don't get that without the flashback of like what Sazla was doing before.
Yeah.
The old dude who had the immortality potion, and it's like, wow,
All the character names. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So
Um,
yes, Josh.
anytime Isaac and Miria
Yeah.
were
Oh, yeah.
on screen, they were that kind of breath of fresh air of just so blissfully ignorant, just going through like, you're thinking like, oh, they need to realize this thing, and they go, and their big aha is like they forgot to get somebody a gift.
If they were RPG characters, all of their stats are in charisma and luck.
yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Like you just go full charisma and luck, and that's what you get is
Like if they're-
Isaac and Miria.
they're at one of the major gangsters' houses trying to sneak in their costumes.
Oh,
But the girl, I
The
think it's
nun
Ava.
and priest costumes.
Ava is crying because she's trying to find her brother.
Eve.
And they're
Eve.
trying to sneak in,
Genoa.
and they're like, you gotta be secretive, and they're totally not being secretive.
Oh, they're
She
Native
hears it.
American costumes. Yeah.
Yeah, and they end up talking to her, and they're like, well, we can make this better. We'll steal your money, and then there will be happiness. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
We're doing good.
yeah. So
well,
it's just
but
like-
also that point where Firo gets inducted into the Martillo family, and then they have to shoot the ceremonial pistol.
And you hear someone scream, "Oh my
the
god,
first
he's
time,
dead."
and then all of a sudden we never get back to that, and then all of a sudden
like 10 episodes later, dude.
5 episodes, then all of a sudden you see Isaac and Miri over there, and then all of a sudden you have to step away, and I'm like, oh shit, but then you're like, no, they survive. We see them later, so you're like, what is gonna happen?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like
when they realize that they're not aging in like 2001,
70 years later.
and they're like,
but again, they're the happy-go-lucky couple, and that's why it's just like
they're just living life. They live
they
it.
living, man.
They living.
They out here living, and
They out here living.
And that's the thing where it's kind of like there's a nice sense of balance between the everything on the Flying Pussyfoot. It's like, oh, 2 gangs and it potentially
And a
evil
ghost.
monster.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like everything outside of it's like, okay, the mafia, and they're all plotting against each other. And then like Isaac and Miri are like, these are the dumbest characters
Yeah.
ever. Not like they're dumb, like written, but they're just dumb.
Yeah.
They're like, what are we?
Extremely likable, but
Yeah.
very dumb.
But it's like, oh, what are we doing? Like, we're getting gold. We're stealing from the earth. It is the greatest heist ever. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And how she's like, "You're so smart" all the time.
Yeah, but then like all of a sudden, like flash forward, and all of a sudden, like they have a mailbox out there. It's like, okay, so they're living in this cave.
Yeah, but also like to give the writers credit too. Like I want to give a shout out to like one of the most heartfelt moments in the show is with them as well, and Ches, where they're like, "Oh my god," and he thinks that they're gonna devour him, and they go, "We're here for you."
Yeah.
Uncle Isaac. And she's like, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. When he puts his mind to something, he's going to take care of you. You are in luck." And like that moment where Ches realized that all he really wanted was like a family, really.
Yeah.
And he wants to like trust somebody and not be on guard all the time. And that's why that moment with Misa is so big at the end. But like to give Isaac and Miria one of the most heartfelt moments in the show to me was like, I was like, that's impressive as a writer.
Well, no, and also to me, just Ches as well, just like being this child who has to worry about dying and then potentially being absorbed by another immortal. Like, I love that
And being tortured his whole existence for years and years.
And I love the whole, like, you know, when he says his name, he says his real name, and it's like, oh, in the presence of other immortals. It was a cool, like,
the little rule, magic rules.
It was a cool, like, rule explaining, like, oh, I said my real name. Why couldn't I lie? It's like there had to be an immortal on that cart, and so like
you find out who it is.
And so he's like worried about it. And I'm like, that's really kind of cool. It's a good way to kind of like not exposition it in the middle of it all. So I mean, we could also talk about Jacuzzi.
I like Jacuzzi.
I remember the first time watching the show, I was like, I hate this little
me too.
bitch. He's such a fucking bitch little character. But then like he's a good-hearted dude.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and then he's like, I cry so much that when the real moments come, it's all dried up, and and he handles his shit, man. Like this kid becomes the leader of a gang, like a very capable gang who rivals the mafia.
And who knocked down what? It was 80 of their places in one day.
It was like
18?
I think it was 18.
18.
I think it was 18, and she goes, "What did that take? A month?" He's like, "One night."
Day,
You're like,
one
whoa!
Night. But then also you see him how he gets like cornered by two guys.
I don't want to kill you.
And then like the giant dude just destroys that man's fingers, and it's like, oh god. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
But the sounds,
yeah,
it was just like,
Another favorite moment of mine on the show, to get specific, was the reveal of Claire Vino being the rail tracer.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that moment right in the conductor's station early on in the show, where he pulls the gun on what you find out is Claire later on, the fake conductor. But then getting back to it at the end of the show, after you've followed this rail tracer for 8 or 9 episodes, and being like, what? There's a real ghost here, because the way they play it out in the original one is you think that the old guy is the rail tracer, and then to have that reveal that it's Claire. And he's an acrobat, and so he kicks the gun out of the guy's head and just goes off on this train. Was another one of those moments similar to me with Fiero's fingers, where I was like, what is happening here?
Well, I love the.
I am the rail tracer.
What are you?
Yeah.
I forget the character's name.
God, and the torture where he puts his hand to the rails.
Yeah.
And oh,
I
God.
forget the character's name who's the reporter and how she escapes immediately when all the stuff goes down and she's like underneath the train and then like he comes down.
Oh, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel.
And he says, "Can I have your ticket?" And then
Yeah.
she screams,
Ticket,
like-
please.
but then like I played the first part and I was like something and like the line I heard was, "How do you like my voice?" And I was like, "Oh man, I remember this, but I don't." And again, watching it again, for getting ready for this episode, I was like, "Oh man, I forgot this thing."
Yeah.
Like this whole I remember the rail tracer thing. I was like, "Oh man, I forget." Like we actually get in contact with that. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is pretty cool.
And he's like terrifying and scary, but he's also a good dude. Like when he gives Big Muscle Boy the rope, and he's like, "I want you to pull on
Pull,
this as
yeah.
hard as you can, except for the kid. There are good people attached to it."
Yeah.
Like it's a weird moral code because he's also he's known for when he kills someone destroying them completely because it's his way of making sure the job is done and being the rail tracer. But at the same time, he's just like, I am going to stand up to injustice.
Yeah, I mean the whole part of like the old dude dying at the very beginning. And I remember I was like, "Oh, Corey's sad at this part because like the old man didn't deserve
The
it." He's like,
conductor?
yeah, he's like, "This might be my last one," and he just leaves. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden at the end credits, you see him like floating in the sewers. You're
Yeah,
like,
but then you
"Oh,
find
so
out
sad."
that Claire really did love him, and he was like, he taught me everything I know.
know about conducting.
Yeah.
and it's like, okay.
Uh-oh.
I really enjoyed the relationship between Jacuzzi and Niece.
Mhm.
She was such a badass character, and he's badass in his own way. Like,
Yeah.
like what he said, he's get the tears out, and then he's on it. Another thing is like when the show starts, and I love this guy talking to Carol, and he's like, "No, Carol." It was just like it was almost like, "No, Karen, you can't do that." No, Carol.
When he kisses her, and she's like, "That's the first time we've ever kissed." He's
Uh.
like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "There's a gentleman like, and then there's just stupid. Both of you."
Both of you, yeah.
Yeah.
I did like Ennis a lot
Yeah.
just because like she
Fiora and Ennis' story might be one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
It's very sweet actually because
Yeah.
I'm like I don't know because so far like again you're so used to this blood and the mafia. It's like, oh my god, this is gonna be like sad and they're gonna kill each other or whatever. But he like Fiora's just trying to get her back the little button thing,
yeah.
and then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell you how to beat the other immortal," and then Fiora absorbs all the information. But like she's like, "I was created and I don't have really a purpose," and she's like, "Well, you could just be with us."
Ding.
Yeah,
I knew how to fix you.
Yeah,
I think that story for me, I mean, I love the whole thing, obviously, but that story for me has always stood out because it's such a juxtaposition about what's going on. You always think like everything needs to end up with all this violence and stuff. And within Fiora's story, obviously there is some because he finds out he's immortal after he gets gunned down and stuff like that. But just that moment between the two of them, and then at the in the 13th episode, getting to see them that they're still together, it's just like it's a nice, it's a nice button on everything, but it's a nice like to get to go to that story in the midst of everything like Lad's doing is a really nice staycation.
Well, yeah, and also like you said, it's a juxtaposition that everything that happened off the train kind of like is this like everything does it in its power to be like, oh, this is gonna get really dire. This is gonna be really, and then all of a sudden like one's like, are you sure that you're willing? Like, if it's your life or us, you have to sacrifice your life. And he's like going into becoming this, this new general or this new like leader for this mafia, and then also he has to fight Misa, and then all of a sudden like he wants to go just help out like a burning building. He's like, oh, I'm gonna help you out. Like, and that's like the small simple things.
The intense part of that knife fight where you stab either of each other in the chest or head, I'll kill you instantly. Is that understood? And I was like, damn.
Yeah, and
Damn.
but then it all comes to a culmination again at the very end when we're finally off the train and like just Misa like just brings him in. It's like now I get like, and he also has that guilt of like I have to explain what all this immortal stuff is. So,
another, I'll say my last favorite part. It made me feel so uncomfortable for the realization of what was happening. But Eve is asking one of the mafia family to save her brother, who's in a barrel at the bottom
Continuously
of the river,
drowning.
and the guy says we'll save him from. They're still going to experiment on him because he's immortal, semi-immortal, but he is continuously drowning. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it just made me just so like.
Yeah, that was a definitely like when I saw that scene for the first time, I was like, oh no.
Oh, I mean,
and he's been down there for like a
year
year by this point, and you're like, he's insane now.
Yeah,
I love it.
Insane.
I'm totally cool with that.
I'm
like,
sure
that's-
you
yeah,
are.
so cool.
It was so
So
cool.
cool.
He's so cool.
Last little bit I want to, because I know we got to move on to the other part of the show. But I do want to touch on Lad Russo for being probably one of the most entertaining villains I've seen in something in a long time.
It very much reminded
in
me
this setting.
It reminded me very much of Under the Red Hood of Joker, played by John DiMaggio.
Yeah.
And it's just very much like this loud.
Sounds like John DiMaggio too. Yeah.
Loud, obnoxious guy, but you're like, man,
I cannot look away.
But it's also, is he so not convicted into his way of thinking? You're like, I only kill if they don't expect it.
Mhm.
If they are wanting to go into it, I respect it. And you're like,
Yeah.
this it's like this is like the anti-hero story. Like you could do a whole movie on this character.
Yeah.
And it would just be a character.
Even his
study.
uncle's afraid of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just thought for the amount of animes I've watched, obviously like when you get into stuff like Kenshin or even stuff that dabbles in mystical stuff, you can do whatever you want with your villains, and there's some fascinating villains in those type of stories. But when it comes to something as almost, I'm saying grounded, and there's like immortals and shit in this, but you know what I mean. When it comes to something a little more grounded like this, having this characterization, he's just a guy. He's a man. He's just a man.
He's Michael Myers. He's legit Michael Myers.
No, I think Joker was the perfect kind of thing.
To me, even then, like him holding the rope and his fingers blasting off, I'm like, this is Michael Myers' level of like, pain don't affect this dude. And but also he's fighting against, I forget the guy's name with the wrench, and then just like the wrench gets in his body, and I'm like,
he's just doing this whole train thing just to see if he could do it too, which is the weird part.
And also he likes wearing white so he can get all the blood on himself. I'm like,
or dancing around because he wanted to see who did it. You know. Anyway, I just got to get a shout out to Lad because I remember watching it the first time with Nate, and he was like, so like, what did you think? And I was like, and we talked about it. I was like, I know this is fucked up, but I really liked Lad. I hated him, but every time he showed up, I was like, this is gonna be interesting. So anyway. That's I could go on and on and on and on.
I just love the equal that Claire / Vino brings to the table with him because he's a calmer lad.
Right.
He's insane too, but he's calmer.
Right. And they literally have he's lad's all white with bits of red and Vino's all red with bits of white.
There's one
from his
scene
suit.
at the end it's like the last frame of episode 15
where you see some
where there's a wrench being thrown at his head and he's calm, and then at the last frame, he has this maniacal face that you're like, this bitch be crazy.
Yeah. Or like when Vino proposes to her and he's like, leave your message. They won't kill me. Don't worry about it. You could throw your knife at me, but it won't work. And then he just is like dodging bullets on his way over to this guy.
Yeah.
All right. Qualms,
favorite
right?
characters.
Oh, right. How many are we doing?
Wow.
3. I did 3.
Let's do 3.
And I will go on record to say I'll go first because I think this I have a soft spot for Firo, obviously. And I'm gonna count this as 1 because I don't think you could have Isaac without Miria. I'm gonna say if y'all want to do it, count that as 1.
Okay, sure.
Because without each other, they're so likable.
I don't think they're ever
so
by
much.
themselves.
No.
Either.
And then Claire. Claire was fat. Once you find out that he's the rail tracer, and one of the brothers, I was to like Luck, which we didn't even talk about.
The
Luck is so
Gondors.
fucking cool.
Yeah.
But that whole storyline towards the end, I was like, I like Claire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Josh?
I'll go. I mean, Isaac and Miria. That I did have it down as this is.
It counts as 1.
This is 1.
Yeah.
And then for all of the wrong reasons,
Lad Russo.
Jesus.
So you were with me when I was going on my rant just then.
Yeah, and it's just like it's hard watching a train wreck and you can't look away. Like
All his
literally,
his monologuing.
He's
and
magnetizing.
he's just
Oh,
magnetizing, and it's just like I hate him so much and love him for it. Like he's just so fucking insane.
Yeah,
and I love it.
Again, charisma and luck, but this is chaotic evil.
Yeah, yeah. So those are.
Did you do 3?
No,
You did Isaac and
Miria, and then Lad,
and then
I'll do Niece.
Niece.
I like Niece. I just think that she's a total badass.
Yeah,
she is a badass.
throwing bombs at people.
all their tats too.
Their tats.
I would say number 1 is probably going to be Cesla, the boy. I really liked him. At first, I was like, I don't know.
Ches,
yeah. I really liked him. Still hate Jacuzzi. But I think Ches is great. I think also like him like trying to put the other little girl in the closet. He's like, cool. Now I left the dead weight's gone. It's like he's not evil, you know. Like he's like, I don't like you, but
he's
also,
a survivor.
Yeah,
he's a survivor of trauma, like deep trauma.
I love that.
How he's even still like he's got his issues, but he's still
You know, like
semi-sane. Like you're
it's
like
like Dallas General, where it's like you don't understand. Like
No.
you know, like this kid's been through so much, and
for years.
yeah, and I love that. There's something about it where it's just like, yeah, he's been through so much, and you know, he hasn't become truly evil. You know, he is a little bit like kill or be killed, but
Mhm.
it's like I love that. And then second, probably Vino. And then third is going to be I think I like what's her name? Chain Lafore? The girl who
Chane?
Chane,
Chane.
yeah, Chane.
Is there a
Yeah.
mosquito on his neck? I'm
I don't
sorry
know.
to.
Sorry.
No, fine. I appreciate it.
I got it.
You got it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank God.
Yeah, it might have got
He
a bite
really
in there.
is the.
Dude, I am teriyaki sauce.
Yeah, but
Chane.
Chane, who is the daughter of, she's the silent assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that. And
Huey
daughter of
Lafayette.
of Huey. Yeah,
yeah, she was just really badass, and she was just like, like I was, she was like, you know, Lad was just like brute force against
Yeah.
her, right? But she's like the knife, the surgical knife.
that's why her and Vino were like, we get each other, and that's
Yeah.
why she's like, yeah, I'll meet you in New York City.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I like this.
I gotta give a shout out to Huey on the boat too, being like, well, when do you think you'll make your decision? I don't know, a couple centuries. I don't know. Like, fuck, I like this guy.
So now qualms.
Now qualms. Excuse me.
Now
Yeah,
we can do qualms, Corey.
Now-
You
Go
have permission.
go for it.
Go ahead, Corey.
My
Go-
one qualm, and it's not even a real qualm. It's that I do think this needed to be more episodes. It is a, obviously it being one of my favorites. I think it works as it is, but it's a breakneck speed show. Again, you blink and you miss some stuff, you could be fucked for the rest of the series. And you know, learning more about it this time around, I've done more research on like the light novels and stuff like that, and how much they actually and truly tried to fit into 13 episodes could have easily been done in like 26.
I'm just going to tiger pounce on that because mine is essentially the same. Too much. There's just so much going on. And then again, this is a stretch qualm because this show would not be what it is without what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think a show should require multiple watches to truly get everything that's
Sure.
going on. I know that it is a creative choice. I know that people have commented and reviewed and said that they love that this takes a chance to
Mhm.
do this kind of storytelling. But I just think it's so much happening within 13 episodes.
And you can't.
Three plot lines that are all kind of equal in importance of what's going on. And you're like, because usually you're going to have one plot line with maybe some little spatterings of like, oh, this side thing. But these are like
all
three-
A plots.
They're all A plots. You got to know.
And I would say you can't get rid of the time jumps. The
No.
payoff. I think if this was, I've seen.
Thank goodness they put this is what the year is.
Yeah, but if they had done this, and I've read tons of reviews who said this, I'm not the first person to say this, but if they had done this in chronological order, it would have been really boring.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say it this way.
Because
And
some of those reveals are the big moments where you're like, oh,
I'm gonna say
That's why.
I'm gonna say some hot takes here.
yeah.
And
Is that all your qualms?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And there's an analogy to it where, you know, again, I apologize to all the real anime fans, but that's how it is with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I'm just like, oh my God, get on with it.
Oh.
Get on with it. And so having this interconnected story, you're kind of like, oh, cool. We're going to get the information here. Like, what are the immortals? Okay, what happens? So it's like, okay, so we see what happens in 1931, and we're in 1930. Oh, now we're going to see what happens in 1929 because that's going to inform who Fierro is here. You know,
Mhm.
so like you have those nice points where it's like, okay, that informs these later things. Like, oh, why is Lad on this train? Or like, what is the heist between
Who are the other immortals?
like-
And turns out it's Isaac and
or,
Maria.
or like why everyone's looking for Jacuzzi, you know, like, oh, what happens? Like, okay, so the dramatic tension is kind of like there, but it's more like dramatic irony because we know that these characters survive, right? So there are those things that you can look forward to, but I feel like, yeah, if it was done chronological order, you just be like, this is such a slog, and this is like, it feels like there's almost no point. Where like, again, part of the enjoyment is like piecing it together. So I think to your point, it is taking it slower, making it longer, and then potentially just like, you know, maybe doing a whole episode that's all in the past,
Yeah.
and not having any of it.
but
you know,
no
trickled
more.
down.
I would say no more than 26
Yeah.
episodes. Keep it the series it is.
Yeah.
Don't try to stretch it.
It's more of a question.
Yeah.
I could not for the life of me remember when Firo became immortal.
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 The same night that he wait, are you talking about
Because
like
they were
the
passing
year?
around that alcohol,
Mhm.
right? Is that when that happened?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Right. So
they did because
Isaac
he
and Miria
became-
steal it.
Yeah.
So
I remember that moment because they're like, "Oh, it's not alcohol," and it's like, "Oh, that explains that."
Dallas burns down the professor's thing and brings the liquor to Silazar, and then Isaac and Miria steal it. Well, technically, eventually they steal it. It goes through some
I
hands.
just needed that explanation, so it
but
was that
then
night.
to celebrate them, for saving their lives,
And Firo joining the family. And
they
all that
have a
kind of stuff.
toast. And but the interesting part is at the very end of the 13th episode, you see what's his name? The English guy from the 1700s, I believe. If I'm remembering, if I thought it was who
Elmer?
it was, is it Elmer who makes the wish?
Yeah.
And he always tells.
I
think
think,
he's
yeah.
talking about how he like knew what it was and he didn't say anything to stop it.
Mm.
He was like, I knew what it was, but I felt like everyone here deserved it. And not in a mean way, but correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that was him at the end of that episode being like, yeah, I tasted it and was like, this is the Grand Panacea.
Yeah.
And didn't say anything. It was like,
Cool.
I like all these people.
Cool,
All right.
cool. What about you, Tom?
And then the last thing is going to be, just kind of, this is like a almost not qualm, is the access. That the last 3 episodes or the OVAs that if you look up on all the forums are going to be like, you should watch them. They tie up some of the loose ends and then they have
Also
continued
called the Baccano Extra, as
Yeah.
people have titled it in the forums.
and they have added storylines, or they have the continued storylines off of the train that you would probably want to watch and see what happens with Lad and see what happens with Vino and all that stuff. And you're like, why do I have to freaking hack into the Pentagon to find these episodes? Which is
Yeah.
just sucks because it's like, if
I
you
hope that they work out the rights thing soon. 'Cause
well, even then they were never ever
included.
They were never even aired. They were
Yeah.
all released in DVDs. So like you're making the show hard to publish, which again it sucks. We all know the story of Firefly. There has been plenty of times where like shows have just been given the raw end of the stick and how they're aired. But it just makes it harder to suggest for other people to be like, yeah, watch this thing that you're gonna have trouble to find. And like honestly, it's like, do you want to invest $60 to just buy the thing and then watch it and then potentially may or may not like it?
Yeah.
It's a harder thing to kind of come over versus like, me being like, buy the $40 steelbook for Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's like it's all there. It's all there. Versus this, it's like I don't know how you're gonna preview it and try it out first. There is no streaming service that's going to be available to have it. So it's a non-qualm of the show, but it's how of the show.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's part of it.
Yeah.
So wait, what was all of our columns? Is just more episodes?
more episodes. I think longer
Breathing room.
storytelling. I think it's tough, especially that we know that the anime goes further on.
Yeah.
And they had to adapt things to make it into the anime, but like, if this was the case, like why do it as a summer anime? Why not do it as like, a 2-season show? There are such things as that. Or Full Metal Alchemist. It was never that long.
Yeah.
But you can't do it. But to me, that kind of is more of a positive note of like,
It would have been more like audience accessible just from being able to take in the content.
well, even that makes me positive or hopeful that like maybe you'll get a remaster, a remake.
That'd be nice.
And then they do a full 26 or 52 episodes.
Yeah. I mean, we also don't know what went behind closed doors. Maybe they planned 26 and then the studio is like, we'll give you enough for 13. And they went, okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh.
Part of summer
Hello,
animes.
darkness, my old friend.
Yeah.
Part of summer animes like Your Lie in April or The Devil's a Part-Timer is that they're meant to be like, cool, ship them out because this is the hiatus between all the other
Right.
all the other anime shows.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, cool. If Marvel ever took a break, they're like, here's a TV show, but instead they just like all the TV shows.
I'm definitely going to check out the light novels from here on out. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. So
Rating. So
now.
I go first.
Go first, Corey.
It is a 4.9 plus 0.1 of 5. It's a 5.
Ooh, it's a 5.
It's a 5.
For Corey.
My only qualm is that I want more. I
Okay.
don't think that warrants any sort of deduction. But I'm also biased because I loved it the first time through, and I was like, yeah, this I fucks with this. So 5.
What did you write down, Josh?
4.5.
4.5 for Josh.
Uh huh.
Mine is a 3.7.
Wow.
You guys chose wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a high window of entry. I feel like.
You got quite the hair flip going on right now.
Do I?
Yeah.
My hair is so wispy. This is one of the shower shampoo days, so my hair gets really wispy. But no, look, it's a 3.7, and you listen to me, who likes a lot of things. 3.7 isn't a bad number. It
just didn't make it into his masterpiece.
It's not
category.
a masterpiece for me. But also, like, it's not saying to not watch it. It's saying that, like, you're gonna have a harder time watching it than everything else.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Of course, I'm saying there's a chance. And if you could find the right place to watch it and skip through 5,000 ads, then you will enjoy it. And I think, but it's also, again, I'm just speaking for people who like anime and stuff like that. Like, we all can see that this show is very unique.
Yeah.
And I think that shouldn't be ignored in that sense.
Can I gush about it a little bit?
Please.
Yeah.
I thought the animation was quite wonderful.
Yeah.
It was what I would call, because you know how sometimes you watch animes and they're just moving stills.
Mhm.
This was very active.
It
I
felt
don't know
very
what that
Studio
type.
Ghibli.
There's a part in Aniplex I think does a really good job in that stuff. Like Fullmetal Alchemist and Blood Plus are really, really kind of cinematic in that way. But there's a part in episode 14 where Firo is seeing everyone doing the dominoes, and then you see his head turn and his body stays the same. And it's like they would just go to another angle, but like his actual head just tilts on the axis.
There
and
was,
you're like,
I really noticed it when there was a character, like when the characters were talking,
Mhm.
like there was a lot of, there was action in their bodies and in their faces.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Some care went into it.
And I think that's what kind of goes into the light animes where it's like they have a higher production value to get those keyframes in there,
Mhm.
but then they're shorter episodes or
Yeah.
they're shorter
Yeah.
seasons.
Seasons.
So who got a shout out?
We got to shout out Charlotte G, Brock P, and Noe S for
Mm,
guessing
nice.
Tom.
Twom.
I
So
got
close,
one vote.
Ah, so close, y'all.
Wrong.
You look so like, I got one vote.
Well,
It's
I think
okay.
they didn't know that this was one of your favorite.
No,
animes.
no. There's no way they could have known. No one's ever heard of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
I'm the
Well-
grump. I didn't say fuck this show. I'm not like all
not with his words, just with his score.
with the score. Like Corey has, I think we said before the episode started that people were like, I hate this show. But then, there's people like me who are like, oh, I like the show. But it's not a high
I'm just
score.
gonna go back to Nate tonight and be like, Tom didn't get it. He's dumb.
say that and then, but I watched it. I get it.
Just using your words, Tom.
No, yeah, please.
No.
Words as weapons.
He didn't get it.
He didn't get it.
Everybody at home, thank you so much for listening or watching. Tell us what your thoughts were
Yeah.
on Baccano.
What are your
Reach out to
favorite
us
characters?
social media. Like I mentioned at the top, there is an anime channel on our Discord server. Let's continue the conversation over there. nerdon.tv/Discord. Do share us with your friends or family, wherever you're listening. Our show is everywhere podcasts can be heard. Rate us and review us there. YouTube, subscribe, do a little thumbs up, do all that thing. We like
Do all the
comments.
things-
Comments are fun because we can get your thoughts on that.
Yep.
For all the algorithm gods.
Share the videos with your oh my goodness, I can use my big words. Share the videos with your fam, your friends. We are focusing a lot on YouTube these days, so would love to get more people on that because we put a lot of work into these video episodes. Speaking of which, huge shout out to the Nerd On Nation who have allowed us to continue to grow and to upgrade our content to this HD madness. We cannot express our appreciation for the Nerd On Nation enough. So do consider joining that because you can be a part of the growth for as little as $1 a month.
4 quarters, baby.
And there are bonuses there. So check it out, nerdon.tv/Patreon. But that's it. That is the episode. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all. You know the drill. As always,
Nerd on.